Story 1. This weekend, a friend and I drove out to pick up some items from an auction. The seller was someone I had purchased from several times before. He lives in a house with a rather interesting driveway layout. It's shaped like a large U, but with sharp turns first. It goes straight up to the house, then makes a right turn and runs alongside it. At the end of the house, it turns left and ends up next to the garage. There's parking along both the first and third stretches, and the entire driveway is visible when you pull onto the property. When I arrived, there were several open parking spots, so I parked without issue. At that point, my friend and I were the only ones there for a pickup. After we said our goodbyes to the seller and started heading back to the car, a man approached the seller, followed by a woman holding a small dog. The man began talking to the seller while the woman stood behind him. As we turned the corner, I realized a car had blocked us in and another car too. To make it worse, there were still open parking spaces along both the first and last parts of the driveway. Yet somehow, this woman had decided to park in a way that completely blocked the only two cars already parked. I stopped, looked back, and gestured to the woman. "Is that your car?" Before I could even finish my sentence, she cut me off. "Yeah, I'm just picking something up real quick. I'll be out in a minute." I tried to stay polite. "I get it. I was just picking up something real quick too. Now I'm ready to go, but I'm blocked in. There's plenty of space if you just pull your car forward." She repeated, "I'm just picking something up real quick. I'll just be a minute." I replied, "You've got enough time to pull your car forward. The gentleman ahead of you will likely be finishing up by the time you're done." It was maybe 20 to 30 feet, plenty of room to move. She stared at me for a solid 5 seconds, then started following me while making little snide noises under her breath. Finally, she said, "I just didn't want to get blocked in." Without missing a beat, I responded flatly, "Yeah, it's frustrating to get blocked in. Nobody wants that." She clearly didn't appreciate that. After all, no one likes being called out for their behavior. She glared at me and said, "You know, you're really rude. I was just picking something up real quick. You don't have to be so unpleasant about it." I must have been channeling my inner calm, because I replied with complete composure, "Well, you seem entitled. Why would you block the only other cars when there are open spaces to park?" That set her off even more. She started calling me rude again and complaining as she walked away. I couldn't help but laugh at how absurd the situation was, and she decided to mock my laugh, calling it witchy. By the time she finally got back in her car, the seller and the other customer came outside. The woman was still muttering under her breath as she moved her car out of the way. The seller helped guide me around some rocks along the edge of the driveway, gave me a cheerful wave goodbye, and tried to keep things light while the other customer wisely stayed quiet, doing his best to avoid getting caught up in the tension. As we drove away, my friend turned to me and said she was glad I spoke up, because she wouldn't have been nearly as patient. I'm usually a cheerful, outgoing person, the kind who strikes up conversations with strangers and makes friends wherever I go, much to the mild frustration of my family and friends. But as the group Dilated Peoples once said, "Don't you take my kindness for weakness?" That day was a perfect reminder of why courtesy and common sense should never go out of style. Story 2. Backstory. This is from around 3 years ago, when I was 13. I lived in a nice neighborhood, and my family wasn't super rich, but we had some money. The entitled kid lived 3 houses down the street from me. At the time, I had just had my birthday 3 weeks ago, so I had a ton of new video games and stuff to play with. Characters: Jack me. Karen, entitled mother. Jimmy, entitled kid. Mother, my mom. Fake names, obviously. So at the time, I was kind of friends with Jimmy. There weren't many kids in our neighborhood, so it was either Jimmy or no one, so I chose Jimmy. Jimmy wasn't the worst kid. He could be annoying sometimes, but most of the time he was fine. My parents worked a lot, but on this day, my mom was off. So I'm just at home chillin' when I hear the doorbell ring. Jimmy asks if he can come over and play, yada yada. Here's where it gets interesting. Jimmy is at my house from around 10 o'clock to 4:30. At that point, he had been there for a while, so we said it was time for him to go. We had to eat dinner, and we were going to a movie. Infinity War. Anyway, we asked him to leave. This is how that goes. Mother: Hey Jimmy, you have to go home now. You've been here all day and it's getting late. Your mom might be worried. Jimmy: I don't want to go. Your house is more fun. I know, Jimmy, and I'm sorry, but it's late. You have to go home now. Fine, I'll go. And so he leaves, and we thought that was the end of it. Boy, were we wrong. 5 minutes later, Jimmy and his mother Karen are at the door. Karen: I heard you kicked my little boy out. Why? He's so good, and he just wants to play games. Mother: I'm sorry, but he was here for over 6 hours, and we have things to do tonight. And the Karen has the audacity to say this. Karen: Well, if you're going somewhere, you can just leave him at your house when you're gone. My mother is shocked for a moment by that, before saying, I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable leaving him at our house alone. Karen seems annoyed. She answers, Then can't you just cancel your plans? Jimmy is such a good boy, and he deserves to play games. I'm sorry, we have tickets for a movie tonight that we already paid for, sorry. Oh great, Jimmy can come with you. I'm sorry, but we only have 3 tickets, and the theater is sold out. Me, Mom, and Dad. So just give him Jack's ticket. I bet he doesn't mind. Me to Mother: Mom, do I have to give him my ticket? Mother: I'm sorry, Karen, but we have been really excited to see this movie, and we have been waiting for a week. Karen gets mad. But you had my son over today. Why can't you take care of him for tonight? He's so good, and he deserves to see that movie. Karen: No. Karen goes on a rant about how good her son is, and how great he is, how he deserves my ticket, so on and so forth. After a little while, my mother shuts the door, and after banging for a while, they leave. That's the last we heard from them. We found out Karen had been insulting us behind our back to people in the neighborhood, but my mother told them what happened, and it all cleared up with them. The end. Story 3. I was on my way home after a very long day working at the hospital. As much as I would have rather just kept driving, the gas light blazing away on my dash told me to stop being lazy and just fill the tank. After hopping off the highway, I head for the small station I frequently use. It only has 2 pumps, both sides, so 4 spots. Even though it has great prices, I rarely have to wait more than a car or 2 for an open spot. Other than the station, the road is pretty much empty nearby. The station was on my side of the road, so I turned on my right-hand directional. As I begin to turn the wheel into the station, this lunatic in a Mercedes, coming from the other direction, sliced through the out lane and inches across my front bumper to beat me into the parking lot. I slammed on my brakes, sending my gym bag and a stack of folders shooting off the passenger seat into a jumbled mess on the floor. I am not big on swearing, but that had me cussing like a sailor. As I pulled in, I noticed a police car in a parking spot outside the building that houses the cashier and the tiny convenience store. My hopes rose as I prayed the officer saw the crazy lady's stunt, and I was about to witness instant karma. No such luck. Sigh. She pulled to one side of the pumps. I pulled to the other. I got out, swiped my card, and started the gas flowing. Then, clear as a bell, I hear the snottiest sounding voice issuing from the Mercedes. This is unbelievable. I was clearly here first, but this idiot is filling up the other car first. No, he hasn't even started yet. I swear these people are stupid as heck out here. Hold on, Shelley. I have to deal with this moron, or I will be here all day. Now the dreaded, excuse me, is aimed right at me. You know you don't need to wait for the tank to be full before you start another car. Now come here and take this. She said, waggling a credit card at me. If I am late because of you, I will be calling your boss. And just so you know, it is very rude to service customers out of order. I was here ahead of that guy. I looked down and sure enough she has a New Jersey license plate. In New Jersey, You don't pump your own gas, an attendant does it for you. My state may have a few full-service stations left, but honestly I haven't seen one in ages. Here you pump for yourself. If she had gotten out of her car, she would have seen I was that guy, but the pump blocked her line of sight. I considered an "I don't work here" lady-style response, but the primed-up entitled expression on this self-absorbed witch required more from me. She stared harder at me, raising her brows, and waggled the card even more emphatically. Before I knew what to do, I let go of my pump, stepped closer, and took the card from her manicured fingers. As she sneered at me, I looked her right in the eyes and snapped my hand downward, flinging her card straight into the trash barrel beside the pump. Someone must have thrown a slushie or milkshake in there, because the card made an awesome splat sound when it hit the bottom. The harpy shrill screech that ensued made the thought of sorting out all the files on the floor of my car almost worth it. It could have stopped there, and I would have happily driven away with my half-full tank, but it was not over yet. She was screaming obscenities at me as I turned away, broiling out the Mercedes in her designer outfit, completely losing her mind. That was when the officer came dashing out of the store. "Excuse me, are you all right, miss? What is going on?" "This man assaulted me and stole my card. He threw it in there," she says, stabbing a 3-inch long nail at the barrel. "Is that correct, sir?" "Barely," she insisted, and I mean insisted. I take her card, since I am under no obligation to provide her service with the card, nor did I want it. I disposed of it in the most expedient manner available to me. I replied, gesturing at the wonderful trash receptacle myself. "That was a pretty petty thing too. I think you should get it for her," the officer decreed. The witch was beaming with smug malice at that. "I will, but under one condition. You detain us both, then go look at the store's parking lot camera. Once you see how we enter the lot, you can decide who goes dumpster diving." He raised a brow at me, but said, "Fine." He takes our licenses and tells us both to wait there. She is a bit perplexed at first, but her natural entitlement must have convinced her she has to be in the right. It is not long before she began to hiss a handful of pretty vile threats at me. I ignored her and finished filling my tank. My passive, smiling confidence must have unnerved her eventually. She crept back into the driver's seat and began talking about lawyers with Shelley. About 20 minutes later, the officer returned. He handed me back my license and told me I'm free to go. Before New Jersey can get a word out, he very sternly rounds on her and says, "Registration, ma'am." That made cleaning up her mess totally worth it. Story 4. So obviously what happened was really awful, but the outcome was absolutely hilarious, so I have to share it somewhere. My boyfriend and I are both 16, and we had just finished eating dinner before homecoming last night. We were waiting on the sidewalk for his mom to pick us up. While we were standing there, a group of men, probably in their mid-20s to 30s, drove by in a truck. They rolled down their window and yelled at us, saying, "Your girlfriend is a fat whale." We had no idea who these people were. I don't even live in that town. They were just being complete jerks for no reason. We didn't say anything back because honestly, it said way more about them than it did about us. Besides, we're literally 16, and they were grown men acting ridiculous. But here's where things got good. My boyfriend's mom pulled up right behind their truck to pick us up. We told her what had just happened, and trust me, his mom does not play around. We were all waiting at a red light when she rolled down her window and yelled at them to pull over. The men responded by flipping us off, so she decided to follow them. She trailed them all the way to a bank parking lot, where they ended up getting stuck between our car and an elderly woman who was struggling to park in front of them. My boyfriend's mom immediately got out of the car and started yelling at them through their window, asking what was wrong with them. She said, "You've got to be either drunk or foolish to be calling a child names at your grown age." One of the men actually replied, "Well, actually, I'm both." We recorded everything just in case they tried to claim we threatened them or damaged their vehicle. And before anyone asks, no, I can't post the video. It was only for the police, and his mom wouldn't appreciate it being shared. So, we called the police and told them that the men admitted to being drunk while driving around downtown, where there were a bunch of kids out for homecoming. And guess what? The troublemakers got arrested. Moral of the story: don't be a jerk, and definitely don't mess with my boyfriend's mom. Story 5. My language arts teacher is ... interesting. He is pretty unprofessional, has clear favorites, teaches poorly, has the patience as short as an ant's droppings, and has a very, very big eagleots of self-confidence. Those are a few things out of his mess of a personality. He would repeat things like 50 times in 1 minute. Okay class, share your journal entries. With a partner. Okay guys, share with a partner, share with a partner. Why aren't you sharing blah 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 all in one breath? Here's an example of him being a jerk. One girl said she was going to be absent, and the teacher said okay. The next day, we got worksheets and her friend asked if she could send a picture of it to the absent lady. He said okay. Next day, the absent girl came with her answers on a separate sheet, and he wrote both of them up for cheating. Like what the heck? Luckily, they were able to prove themselves innocent. There is another teacher with him, and she is a saint. Her job is to help athletes low income or poor living condition students catch up and not struggle in their studies. She hangs around our classroom a lot, and we can tell she doesn't really approve of this teacher. She knows that my friend and I are good students. My friend and I don't really speak to others. We do our work and keep to ourselves. This is a regulars class, so not everyone in there is a good apple. My friend and I, however, are trying hard and following every direction given. I don't know why, but this makes the teacher suspicious of us, as if he never saw a good student before or something, always watching us closer than others. Friday before finals week, he puts on a movie version of a novel we read in class, even though we watched it like 3 times. Yes, this was the only form of review he did in class. He says that review is our responsibility and not his, and the study guide should be enough for us. You can add lazy to his personality. My friend and I decided that we wanted to do a mini podcast to quiz ourselves and prepare. Our teacher left for a minute, so we asked the Saint teacher if we can do this idea in the computer pod connected to the classroom. She said yes, absolutely, praising us for having a good idea, etc. We go in, record, and come out the last 5 minutes before the period ends. Our teacher was back, and he looked surprised to see us emerge from the pod. We, along with the Saint teacher, explained what we did, thinking that we should be in the clear since it's review, and we took the responsibility that we have. But as we explained, his face grew angrier and angrier until he looked like he wanted to strangle us. He eventually gave a heavy sigh and waved us away. When we got back to our seats, our teacher went up to the front of the class and addressed us by name very loudly. "Do you think you can pass the final? Are you confident you can get a good score?" he asks loudly. We say yes, and he scoffs and mocks us. Oh look everyone, these two think that just because they saw the movie before, that they will pass the final and stuff like that. Everyone was pretty uncomfortable. He mocks us and laughs at us for the rest of the period, saying we will never pass and how egotistical we are, hypocrite. Fast forward to our final day. We had 112 questions. Scantron. We had another Scantron for the remaining 12 questions. Easy. Nailed it. Didn't get stuck on a single question. Although some questions seemed a little unusual, it wasn't unexpected because our teacher puts in vague questions and answer choices on our tests anyway. When we were done and everyone else turned theirs in, we had about a minute or two to talk. Friend and I asked some others how they did, and we quickly found out that everyone else's finals were 56 questions, meaning we had literally twice as many questions. We get called up to the teacher's desk, and we see that he has our Scantrons and his grader ready to go, with a huge and smug grin. He goes, "Okay everyone, all tests are in. Let's see how the ready for the final oh so confident students did," in a mocking voice, and put his screen on the smartboard. He scanned our tests, and we both got 100%. His smug face was entirely wiped off with a jaw drop, and we put on the smuggest grins we could manage, exchanging high fives and whatnot. The entire class was dead silent, staring at my teacher. He asks how, and we say that we studied like he told us to. He sputtered out lots of things, like blaming us for cheating, no way we could have passed that, etc. Then he stood up and ran out of the classroom and never returned. Day after finals week, his big ego and self-confidence was completely broken. He just sorta went around in a daze. I was pretty worried, because no way something like that can break him that badly. Well, if a teacher can mock us and be so unprofessional like that, then I guess pigs can fly and anything else can happen. As of the past 3 school days until now, he hasn't shown up. And rumors are spreading that he got fired because another friend in our class recorded and posted a video of the whole event. I admit that I don't like this teacher, and I really wish this happened to him. But at the same time, karma, which, you smug us, we smug right back. Story 6. This happened when I was just out of high school. When I was in grade 9 and 10, my best friend and I hung out together constantly. We had known each other through sports when we were younger, but it wasn't until high school we really started hanging out. I have to say this story has 3 people. Me, my best friend, and his jerk buddy who never liked me for whatever reasons. Anyways, at the time I was into punk rock and he was into folk hippie music. His favorite was Neil Young. I would laugh and poke fun at him for his crap music, and I admit I never knew who he was or his music. One day I was helping my best friend clean his room. His mom said he couldn't go out until it was done, so I helped. And I came across a Neil Young tape. I remember it had 2 albums, After the Gold Rush and Harvest. Again, I poke fun about his taste in music, and he said to me, "You know, you shouldn't make fun of his music if you've never listened to it." For whatever reason, it dawned on me that he was right. So I told him, "You know what? You're right. I'll take this home, listen to it, then I'll poke fun at you tomorrow." Fair enough. So I go home and listen to the first song on After the Gold Rush. The song was Tell Me Why. I couldn't believe how much I loved it. The style, the acoustic guitars, the harmonizing. I ended up listening to it 3 times in my parents' kitchen, and then I listened to the whole album. I was blown away, and the next day I told him sorry. I was wrong, and Neil Young is now one of my favorites. He actually was the one that got me out of punk music and into the 60s, 70s hippie sort of music. So we hang out constantly for a couple years and things are great. One day we're hanging out listening to Neil, getting some puffs in on a reefer, when we both agreed that we want to see Neil Young play live on day. We made a pact that if we ever stopped being friends, if life ever got in the way of our friendship, and we drifted apart, that we would still, no matter what, go see Neil together. Sounded like a great plan. So a couple years go by and of course we had drifted apart. We both had new friends and hardly ever spoke anymore. One day I got a call from him out of the blue. He says, "Neil Young is going to Calgary for a show. Are we going?" I was super excited and, I guess in a sentimental, nostalgic way, felt nothing but good love for my old friend. We hung out again, and we were both so stoked that our old promise came to fruition. Supposed to be the show of a lifetime, right? Of course not. Now I have to tell you, during the 2 years we had drifted apart, he started hanging with the one I called Jerk. He and I never got along, and that's that. I didn't know why he liked the guy so much, since he was always a total jerk to almost everyone, and he never had any money. Always bumming smokes, weed, food, all the time. So the day of our road trip comes up, and I'm super happy. I drive to my boyfriend's place to pick him up and all is well. Once he gets in my car, he says, "Hey man, we gotta stop by the Jerk's place so I can drop off a sweater." I thought that was weird since it wasn't cold out and hardly a desperate need for a sweater on a nice weekend. But he did have a thick sweater in his hands, so whatever. This jerk wants his sweater. This is where things go downhill. We pull up to the Jerk's place, and there's the piece of crap, standing on his stoop with an overnight bag. I turn to my best friend and say, "What the heck, dude? Why does he have a bag?" My friend proceeds to tell me that he invited him along, and he admitted he lied to me because he knew no way in hell I would drive to go get him. I told him I thought this was our thing, Neil Young, as promised years ago. He felt bad, I guess, but nowhere near as bad as I think he should have felt. Anyways, the drive to Calgary was them having a great time with me driving the whole 7.5 hours. The jerk, of course, had no smokes, no weed, nothing but enough money he was hoping would be enough for a cheap nosebleed section ticket. At least he wouldn't be sitting with us, though. The jerk didn't even offer up a cent for the hotel either. We went to the concert, had an awesome, amazing time, and I was hoping things would be looking up. After the concert, I decided to go out with a couple friends I hadn't seen in a couple years. They lived in that city, obviously. We went out, without my friend and his jerk, and had a drunken, awesome time. It was the first time I tried ecstasy, and I have to say I was wrecked. I ended up parking in downtown Calgary and walking a long way to find my hotel. I eventually found it and went up to the room and ended up passing out underneath the sink by the bathroom around 3 a.m. I somehow managed to wake up an hour before checkout, and man, I felt like total crap. So hungover and not feeling all that hot. Those were the days. So I packed up my heavy bag and my guitar. I used to play in a band with my friend in high school, so I thought it would be nice to sing our old songs on the trip. Never did because of the jerk. I leave the room carrying what felt like 1,000 pounds of crap to the lobby, only to see my friend and the jerk sitting there happily eating breakfast. I talked to them for a minute to tell them I had to go find my car, as it was somewhere in downtown Calgary. They smile and say sure, they'll be waiting for me in the restaurant. I go lugging my heavy crap, and it took me well over an hour of walking all over downtown looking for this stupid car. I almost collapsed when I turned a corner and finally found the car. My arms are killing me, the hangover is killing me, and all I can think of is getting into the car for the terrible drive home. The sooner I get into the car, the sooner I can get home. I put my stuff down and go into my coat pocket. No keys. I'm frantic as I look in every pocket I have. No keys. I was pissed. I somehow knew my friend and the jerk had something to do with this. To make things worse, while looking for my car, I ended up going in all directions, so I was confused as to where my hotel was now. It took me about half an hour to find it. All while still carrying my heavy stuff. I finally find the hotel and angrily go into the restaurant, and I see my friend and the jerk smiling at me like I was the butt of some joke. I marched up to them with fire in my eyes and their deaths on my mind. I looked at my friend and said slowly with lots of anger, "Give me my freaking keys now." He laughs and hands them to me. I ask why the heck he would take my keys from my coat as I was passed out. His reason was moronic. He told me, "I knew you were pissed that the jerk came along with us, so I took your keys so I would know I have them, and you couldn't take off home and leave us in another city." I asked why the heck he would let me go look for my car without my keys when he knew full well I didn't know exactly where my car was, and I was going to have to do a major search in a huge downtown area. I don't recall his answer, but it was likely a stupid smile, like he had pranked me or something. I looked at both of them and said without a lick of heat, "I'm leaving this place right this second, and I'm not coming back. If you and the jerk aren't right behind me to get the car, I'm leaving to drive the 7.5 hour drive home alone." They literally laughed at me like I was a joke to them, as if they were so important I would never go through with what I said. Their laughs faded away as I again walked to get my car. Of course I didn't go back, and I got in my car, went to the local gas station for directions to the highway home, long before Google Maps and internet, and happily went on my way. I heard later from my friend, he didn't cut me off completely after that, surprisingly, and he told me how once I left he and the jerk both were like, "He's joking, hey. What do you think? No, he would never ditch us here, no way." They waited, and they finally realized the worst. I kept my word and went back home without them. My friend told me they tried to hitchhike home, but no one would pick them up. Then he told me it started to rain super bad. I knew because it rained a lot on my comfortable drive home. My friend said he eventually had to beg someone back home to send him money so they could rent a car. That's basically the end of it. I had told my friend that I felt he ruined our trip by bringing along someone he knew didn't like me. So I don't see how he would have thought I was joking about leaving them, especially after he stole my keys and laughed after he knew I'd be screwed once I found my car. He also knew how sick and hungover I was. It's funny because I was reminded of this story when I saw my friend at the local Safeway store today. He never held a grudge against me, nice to say. The jerk, however, for the next 20 years would see me and yell Calgary as a hello and a goodbye. I see him around once a year, and last time at the bar he was a bit drunk and all his anger came out again. All that was because of me telling the people at the bar what he was so pissed about and us all, minus the jerk, having a good laugh.